What if I told you that long before the rise of Egypt, Sumer, or even the first flicker of organized civilization, another race walked the earth, a race so impossibly tall that their heads brushed the low clouds, a race spoken of in trembling whispers by ancient scribes, feared by kings, and remembered in the world's oldest myths? Let me ask you something. What would you do if you stood at the edge of a valley, looked up, and saw a 300-foot silhouette slowly turn to face you? This is not the story of tall men, or warriors of unusual stature. This is the story of giants, not metaphorical giants, not symbolic giants, but colossal beings recorded across cultures that never met, never traded, never shared their myths. Yet somehow, they told the same story. Imagine for a moment a quiet prehistoric landscape. The earth is young, chaotic, and lush. Forests stretch unbroken for hundreds of miles, strange animals roam beneath the canopy, and humanity is nothing more than a vulnerable spark in the darkness. And on this earth, according to the Book of Enoch, the Dead Sea Scrolls, and countless fragments of forgotten lore, something descended from the sky. Something not entirely human. These were the Watchers, heavenly beings said to have taken mortal form, and from their forbidden union with human women came the Nephilim, colossal hybrids described as giants of renown, whose height was like the cedars. Some translations even suggest heights so enormous, so wildly beyond reason, that later scribes scaled them down because the truth was simply too staggering to write plainly. But what if the original accounts were never exaggerated? What if the world truly was once home to beings the size of modern skyscrapers? As strange as it sounds, the idea of giants, real, physical, towering giants, did not originate in a single place. The Hopi, the Maya, the ancient Egyptians, the Dogon of Mali, the Greeks, the early Hebrews, the Babylonians, and even isolated hill tribes all described monstrous beings. Some were guardians, some were tyrants, some were said to have taught forbidden knowledge to humanity: architecture, warcraft, sorcery, metallurgy, astronomy. And in nearly every story their reign ended in catastrophe. But before we dive deeper into these ancient accounts, let's anchor ourselves. Picture a windswept plateau somewhere in the cradle of the early humanity. Now imagine a set of footprints, each one over 4 meters long, pressed deep into solidified sediment. Archaeologists have found such prints before, scattered in perplexing layers of rock around the world. Most are dismissed as erosion, as pareidolia, as natural formations. But every so often, one emerges that defies easy explanation. A toe shape is too defined, a heel is too clean, the stride length is too immense. Is it madness to wonder if they were left by something enormous? Something the ancient world tried desperately to warn us about? Just before we begin unraveling this vast entangled mystery, tracing it from Genesis to Sumerian tablets, from forbidden scrolls to unexplained archaeological reports, there's one quick thing. Before we continue deeper into this prophecy, quick request. If you enjoy falling asleep to ancient mysteries like this, hit subscribe. I upload new bedtime history every Saturday at 8 p.m, and I read every comment and take topic suggestions. Your next favourite sleep story might be one you requested. Now, step with me a little further into the dark, because once you lift the veil on the Nephilim, you begin to notice something odd, something historians rarely want to address. Why do cultures who never encountered one another describe identical beings? Why do they share imagery of skyborne visitors, forbidden unions, catastrophic floods, and world-shaping titans? And why do these stories always end with a warning? The same warning, written in different words: they will return. The ground beneath you shifts, the air grows heavy. Somewhere in the distant mist of prehistory, something unimaginably massive moves. Welcome to the shadow of the Nephilim. And this is only the beginning. Before the Nephilim ever walked the earth, before the first footprints were pressed into mud and stone, there were the Watchers. Ancient texts describe them as beings of light and air, celestial entities who observed humanity from above. But at some point, these Watchers crossed the threshold from heaven into our world, and history, or what little remains of it, would never be the same. The Book of Enoch, a text long hidden and feared, offers one of the most vivid accounts. It tells of 200 angels who looked upon the daughters of men and found them fair, and in their fascination broke divine law from their union. The Nephilim were born, giants whose presence was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. The text does not describe mere physicality. It emphasizes power, knowledge, and a kind of unnatural dominance over the natural world. But why would heavenly beings, if we assume they were truly celestial, descend to mingle with mortals? Some scholars argue it was curiosity, others say rebellion. And yet, the texts are clear. Their arrival was forbidden. Some translations suggest these angels imparted knowledge to humanity, the arts of metallurgy, astronomy, warfare, and sorcery, gifts that simultaneously propelled civilization forward and sowed seeds of chaos. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, myths emerge that echo this story. The Sumerians speak of the Anunnaki, a pantheon who came from the heavens, shaping humanity with their advanced knowledge. The Maya describe sky beings who taught them the calendar, the stars, and hidden secrets of the earth. Across Africa, the Dogon tribe whispers of entities who descended from Sirius, imparting wisdom that seems impossible without prior contact. Could these stories all point to a single truth? Were these myths the same tale, distorted through time and geography? And if so, what does it tell us about the Nephilim themselves, the hybrid giants born of these unions? Descriptions of the Nephilim vary in detail, but one feature is universal: their size. Ancient texts sometimes imply that a single Nephilim could stride across a valley in mere steps. Their strength was legendary. They could fell trees, bend metals, and dominate creatures that were already larger than humans. Some legends go further, claiming that entire forests were flattened simply to make way for their passage. And while modern scientists scoff considering the biomechanics impossible, one cannot dismiss the consistency across civilizations. Size and power were inseparable from their myth. There are whispers, too, in archaeology that hint at reality behind these stories. Certain megalithic sites, from Baalbek in Lebanon to Pumapunku in Bolivia, present structures so massive, so precisely cut, that historians struggle to explain them with primitive tools. Could the knowledge of the Nephilim or their watcher parents have informed these constructions? Some fringe researchers argue yes. Others suggest the giants themselves may have been labourers in a prehistoric colossal-scale civilization. And then there is the question of morality. The Nephilim were not described as benevolent. While some legends portray them as guardians or teachers, many depict them as tyrants. The Book of Numbers in the Hebrew Bible mentions them as giants who instilled fear in the hearts of the Israelites. Some scrolls describe battles between humans and these titanic beings, with death and devastation following wherever the Nephilim tread. Yet paradoxically, humanity survived. The Nephilim were said to perish, or perhaps vanish, during a cataclysmic flood, a divine reset. But what if that flood did not eliminate them entirely? Some theorists suggest pockets survived, hidden in remote regions, leaving traces that might still be discovered: bones, footprints, or even artifacts too enormous for human hands. And so the question lingers: if these giants once walked the earth, shaping early civilization, what remnants of their existence remain buried beneath our feet? In our next step, we will examine the physical evidence, the footprints, skeleton fragments, and inexplicable ruins that hint at a reality far stranger than myth. Because to understand the Nephilim, we must follow the trail they left, both in story and in stone. The Watchers descended, the giants arose, and the world as humans knew it changed forever. But the shadows of these titans still linger, waiting for those who dare to look closer. When we talk about giants, it's easy to dismiss them as myth. After all, 300-foot beings defy every principle of biology we understand. But then there are the footprints, strange impressions in stone, clay, and hardened mud, scattered across the globe, that hint at a reality stranger than legend. Take, for instance, the fossilized prints discovered in the Paluxy riverbed in Texas. For decades, researchers debated whether these massive tracks, some more than 19 inches long and proportionally wide enough to suggest a human over 10 feet tall, were simply the erosive trick of nature or proof of beings that once walked the earth. Critics argued erosion and misinterpretation, yet photographs from the 1930s and eyewitness accounts indicate tracks paired alongside dinosaur imprints, as though the giants and ancient reptiles coexisted. Meanwhile, in the deserts of India and Pakistan, large human-like footprints have been found pressed deep into rock slabs. Some are circular, others more oval, but each has a distinct heel, arch and toe alignment that mirrors human anatomy, but on a scale that boggles the mind. In some cases, the prints measure well over 4 meters in length, with stride patterns impossible for any ordinary human. Local legends speak of Bali's Daitia, massive beings of great strength and terror, who moved silently across the land in the night. Footprints alone would be remarkable, but there are other traces, subtle yet unnerving. In remote regions of South America, archaeologists have uncovered tools and carved stones far too heavy for a normal human to wield. Some of these stones, weighing multiple tons, bear markings that suggest they were manipulated with hands far larger than ours, or with technology lost to time. Could these be relics of the Nephilim? The pattern is undeniable. Wherever these tracks appear, so do artifacts that defy conventional explanation. It's not just the size of the beings that fascinates, it's the consistency across civilizations. From the Sumerian Anunnaki and the biblical Nephilim to the Maya Bolonyokte and the African Ninki Nanka, cultures separated by oceans, deserts and millennia describe enormous sky-descended beings who shape humanity's destiny. In some stories they are creators, in others, destroyers. Some are teachers, imparting forbidden knowledge. Others are warriors, leaving destruction in their wake. Yet all share a common theme: immense stature, extraordinary power, and a connection to the divine or extraterrestrial. This global pattern raises uncomfortable questions. Could myths across the world, often dismissed as coincidental, actually preserve fragmented memories of real beings? Could these giants have walked among early humans, shaping cultures, religions, and technologies long before recorded history? Skeptics will point to exaggeration, storytelling, and symbolic interpretation. Giants could mean kings, warriors, or people of great renown. Yet the physical evidence, the enormous footprints, paired alongside dinosaur tracks, fossilized teeth of massive proportions, and tools too heavy for ordinary humans, challenges this purely symbolic reading. Something tangible seems to have left its mark on the world. Some theorists go further, speculating that the Nephilim were engineers of catastrophe, influencing early humans to build megalithic structures that still stand today. The pyramids of Giza, the megaliths of Stonehenge, or the massive platforms of Pumapunku. The argument isn't merely that humans built them, but that humans with guidance, perhaps coercion, of these colossal beings accomplished feats that would otherwise be impossible. And then there's the eerie timing. Nearly all these footprints, tools, and constructions date to a period before conventional history acknowledges complex societies existed. This prehistory of giants is a shadowy realm, a lost chapter of the Earth story that mainstream archaeology often ignores or dismisses. But the trail is there, faint yet persistent. Footprint by footprint, artifact by artifact, the world begins to reveal a narrative, one in which giants truly walked the Earth, shaping its destiny, leaving subtle warnings and vanishing suddenly, though perhaps not entirely. As we continue our journey, we will explore the giants themselves, their anatomy, the sheer scale of their power, and what ancient texts reveal about their nature. For if the footprints hint at their existence, the stories whisper of their incredible abilities, and the terrifying reason why humanity was never meant to live alongside them. The footprints tell part of the story, but they are only a shadow of what the Nephilim truly were. To grasp their enormity is to confront the impossible. Beings whose physical presence would dwarf even the tallest human today, whose sheer mass could reshape landscapes with every step. Ancient texts offer tantalizing glimpses into their anatomy, though descriptions are often cloaked in metaphor, as if even the scribes feared to write the full truth. The Book of Enoch, one of the oldest surviving references, calls them giants of renown. Yet the Hebrew term used, Nephilim, hints at fallen ones, beings that straddled the line between divine and mortal, whose bodies were larger, stronger, and more durable than anything human. Some translations imply heights ranging from 20 to 100 cubits. If we calculate a cubit as roughly 18 inches, these giants would have ranged from 30 to 150 feet tall. Later traditions, extrapolating from fragmentary sources, suggest some may have reached 300 feet, a scale that turns the word giant into something almost unimaginable. Consider the mechanics of such a being. Human bones can only support so much weight. Muscles, tendons, and internal organs scale imperfectly with size. A 300-foot Nephilim would require extraordinary biological adaptations, something beyond natural evolution as we understand it. Some theorists suggest their skeletal structure may have been denser, their muscles layered differently, and their hearts capable of pumping blood across massive distances. Others propose that the Nephilim were enhanced by the Watchers, imbued with energy or substances that defy human biology, divine or extraterrestrial engineering, if you will. Descriptions of their abilities reinforce this notion. Ancient texts recount the Nephilim felling mountains, uprooting trees with bare hands, and bending metal as though it were clay. Some myths portray them leaping across rivers, or even scaling cliffs in a single bound. One Babylonian text speaks of a Nephilim so large that his shadow darkened an entire village for hours. Imagine the horror and awe of witnessing such a being in motion, each footstep a minor earthquake, each gesture capable of reshaping the environment. Yet the legends are not solely about strength. Many sources emphasize intelligence and cunning. The giants are often portrayed as teachers of forbidden knowledge, architecture, astronomy, metallurgy, and even warfare. The Sumerians call them the Anunnaki, rulers who shaped early cities and decreed the order of kings. The Mayan Bolon Yokte guided rituals, calendars, and cosmic understanding. Even in the Hebrew tradition, the Nephilim are associated with both terror and renown, their legacy intertwined with humanity's earliest legends of kings, heroes, and fallen angels. Interestingly, some texts hint at physiological peculiarities. Certain scrolls describe elongated skulls, multiple rows of teeth, or eyes so large they could see across vast distances. Others suggest skin resistant to injury, rapid healing, and a lifespan far exceeding humans. If any of this is remotely accurate, the Nephilim were not just giants. They were monsters in human form, operating on a scale and with a purpose beyond comprehension. This duality, immense strength paired with intelligence, may explain why so many cultures feared yet revered them. They were not mindless titans nor benevolent gods. They existed in a liminal space between the terrestrial and the celestial. Their presence reshaped societies, altered belief systems, and left indelible marks in stone, scripture, and memory. But with power comes danger. The legends consistently describe catastrophe. The Nephilim were too vast, too potent, too unbound by human morality. Their presence provoked divine or natural intervention, floods, celestial punishment, or mysterious disappearances. And yet, whispers persist. Some survived hidden pockets, remote valleys, forgotten mountains, places where these colossal beings might have endured, leaving traces of their anatomy and strength for only the brave or foolish to find. To witness a Nephilim in motion, even in imagination, is to glimpse the intersection of myth and reality. A being so vast that the world itself seems small, a creature that belongs both to legend and possibly to history. Their anatomy, power, and intelligence are a puzzle that challenges everything we think we know about the natural order. In the next section, we will trace the Nephilim's impact on ancient civilizations, exploring the cities they influenced, the structures they left behind, and the lingering evidence that suggests humans were not alone in shaping the earliest chapters of history. If the Nephilim were as colossal as the texts suggest, it is logical to assume their influence extended beyond simple existence. They did not merely walk the earth, they left traces in culture, architecture, and social structure. From Mesopotamia to the Americas, evidence of their supposed presence is interwoven with the earliest cities, monuments, and temples humanity has ever known. Consider Sumer, one of the world's first civilizations. Here, the Anunnaki, the celestial beings said to have fathered the Nephilim, are described as the architects of kingship, law, and cities. Uruk, Eridu, and Ur were not merely settlements. They were centers of advanced knowledge, aligned precisely with astronomical phenomena. Ziggurats soared skyward, each layer meticulously engineered. Some theorists argue these enormous constructions could not have been achieved without assistance, whether through advanced tools, lost techniques, or the physical labor of beings of extraordinary strength. The very layout of these cities suggests an awareness of the cosmos, as though the Nephilim themselves left a blueprint for mortals to follow. Meanwhile, across the world, similar stories emerge. In Mesoamerica, The Maya speak of the Bolon Yokde, giants who guided the construction of massive pyramids and ceremonial platforms. At Tikal, at Palenque, and in other ruins, enormous stone blocks were precisely cut and fitted, some weighing upwards of 50 tons. Anthropologists continued to debate the methods used, as the technology of the era should have made such feats nearly impossible. Could the Nephilim, with their immense size and possibly superior intellect, have supervised or even directly participated in this work? Even more perplexing are the megalithic sites of South America, particularly Puma Punku in Bolivia. Here, perfectly interlocking stones, some over 10 feet high and weighing several dozen tons, are laid out with mathematical precision. The angles are exact, the cuts so sharp they seem almost machine-made. Conventional archaeology struggles to explain how ancient humans, without pulleys, cranes, or metal tools capable of such precision, could achieve this. Could the giants themselves have been the engineers, or at least the inspiration? Africa, too, carries whispers of colossal architects. The Great Zimbabwe ruins, massive stone enclosures spanning hundreds of meters, defy explanation in terms of labor and technique. For the time, oral traditions speak of beings who could move enormous stones with ease, creatures so vast they were almost supernatural. The common thread is striking. Civilizations separated by continents and oceans describe the presence of beings of immense size and power, capable of shaping human settlements on an extraordinary scale. These are not casual myths. The giants, in every region, are connected to creation, law, astronomy, and monumental architecture. Their presence is entwined with human advancement. Yet their influence was not entirely constructive. The Nephilim are also associated with destruction and chaos. In biblical accounts, the Israelites feared the giants of Canaan, describing fortified cities they could not penetrate. The Book of Numbers mentions Nephilim so fearsome that the mere sight of them terrified spies sent to explore the land. In Mesopotamian texts, some giants are described as waging war, levelling cities, and leaving devastation in their wake. Civilization, in some narratives, grew not only because of their guidance, but in spite of their terrifying power. The duality is profound. These beings were both builders and destroyers, teachers and tyrants, guardians and monsters. Their legacy is everywhere, etched into stone and memory, yet almost entirely unrecognized by mainstream scholarship. Perhaps humanity was never meant to fully understand them. Perhaps we're only meant to see the shadows of their colossal presence. As we continue, we will investigate the mysterious disappearances of the Nephilim, the events and cataclysms that supposedly ended their reign. Were they wiped out by divine decree, natural disaster, or did they vanish into hidden corners of the earth, leaving only whispers, ruins, and footprints behind? The cities of the Nephilim stand as monuments to their existence, and yet their greatest mysteries are not these stoneworks, but the beings themselves, creatures so enormous, so powerful, and so entwined with the dawn of civilization that even imagining them stretches the limits of belief. Every story of the Nephilim contains an inescapable shadow, their sudden disappearance. Across civilizations and continents, myths describe a cataclysm so profound that it wiped giants from the earth or forced them into hiding. Yet the exact nature of this event remains one of history's greatest enigmas. The most familiar account appears in the Hebrew Bible. Genesis hints at a world corrupted by the Nephilim's presence. The Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. The text suggests a combination of human wickedness and the overwhelming influence of these colossal beings provoked a divine reset. That reset came in the form of a flood, an obliteration of all but a handful of humans, their offspring, and the seeds of a new world. The Book of Enoch expands this narrative dramatically. It describes how the Watchers, the celestial parents of the Nephilim, were judged for their transgression. Their children, the giants, ravaged the earth, consuming everything in sight, terrorizing humans and corrupting the natural order. In one passage, the text emphasizes that the giants were so large and voracious that they threatened to destroy all life, prompting divine intervention. Enoch recounts that the angels were bound, imprisoned in the abyss, and that the giants were destroyed, or at least annihilated in most forms, by the Great Flood. But here's where it becomes intriguing. Evidence for a global cataclysm is not limited to biblical text. Around 12,000 years ago, at the end of the Pleistocene, the world experienced dramatic climate shifts, massive flooding, and abrupt extinction events. Could these have coincided with the legendary downfall of the Nephilim? Some theorists suggest that myths of a flood, preserved across cultures, from Mesopotamia to India, from China to the Americas, may be distorted memories of real-world catastrophes that coincided with the giants' disappearance. Other legends tell a different story. In Mesopotamian and Sumerian texts, certain giants were said to retreat into hidden valleys, subterranean cities, or even celestial realms. They did not vanish entirely. Rather, they withdrew, leaving behind monuments, ruins, and whispered warnings for humans. Could these beings have survived in pockets, invisible to history, only occasionally glimpsed in folklore as mysterious travellers or monstrous figures? Archaeological records, though fragmentary, hint at this possibility. Some isolated regions of the globe have yielded anomalous artifacts, enormous stone implements, oversized skeletal fragments, and ruins too massive for ordinary humans. In the Andes, in remote caves of Central Africa, and in the deserts of the Middle East, local legends speak of hidden giants, invisible or cloaked, who once walked openly. Skeptics dismiss these claims as legend, but the recurrence across cultures and continents is difficult to ignore. It is also worth noting the moral dimension of the Nephilim's fall. Many stories describe their destruction not as a punishment for mere existence, but for their impact on humanity. They were not content to live alongside humans. They dominated, corrupted, and sometimes consumed the people around them. The myths frame the Nephilim as both awe-inspiring and dangerous, a duality that ensures they are remembered not as gods, but as warnings. Yet one question remains. If the Nephilim were destroyed or hidden thousands of years ago, why do stories of their presence persist across cultures? Why do ancient civilizations, separated by oceans and centuries, speak of identical beings, colossal in stature and divine in origin? And why do legends suggest that their return, or at least a resurgence, is possible? In the next section, we will trace the possible survival of the Nephilim, exploring reports of modern sightings, hidden remnants, and the tantalizing possibility that these giants may never have vanished entirely. The world, as it turns out, may still hold secrets too large for conventional history to contain. The Titans fell, or so we're told, but the shadows of their existence linger in every stone, every myth, and every footprint pressed into the earth. If the Nephilim were truly as colossal and powerful as the ancient texts suggest, could they have truly vanished? Or is it possible that, while the majority were destroyed or driven into hiding, some survived, lurking in remote valleys, mountain ranges, or even deep underground caverns? Across cultures, legends hint that the giants never completely disappeared, leaving subtle traces and whispers of a presence that refuses to die. Consider the remote regions of the Himalayas, where local folklore speaks of enormous, elusive beings who inhabit the highest peaks. Sherpas recount stories of giant footprints appearing in snowfields, vanishing without a trace, and of enormous shadows moving silently across ridges at dawn. These tales, passed orally for centuries, are strikingly consistent with the size, behavior, and movement patterns described for the Nephilim in ancient texts. Could these mountains, vast and inhospitable, serve as refuge for beings of immense stature? Across the Pacific, the dense jungles of Papua New Guinea hold similar stories. Tribes speak of giants of the forest, creatures so large that they can bend trees to their will, whose footsteps thunder across the undergrowth, and whose appearances are both terrifying and rare. Modern explorers occasionally report unusual tracks, impressions far larger than any human could leave. While skeptics often attribute these reports to hoaxes or imagination, the persistence of such legends across millennia suggests something more than folklore. South America, too, maintains echoes of hidden giants. In the Andes and Amazon basin, oral traditions speak of enormous beings who once ruled the land, descending from the mountains or rivers to impart knowledge or enforce judgment. In some cases, local villagers claim to have seen enormous silhouettes moving silently through fog-laden valleys, figures so large that normal perspective cannot account for their scale. Skeptics call these accounts hallucinations, but the frequency and consistency of these stories are hard to ignore. Even in North America, indigenous legends describe skyborne giants. The Hopi and Navajo, for example, speak of enormous beings who taught early humans the secrets of agriculture, astronomy, and survival. These figures, sometimes referred to as the people of the first time, were said to be immense, powerful, and fleeting in presence, appearing only when the world needed their guidance, then vanishing without warning. Some accounts suggest they retreated to underground dwellings, hidden from ordinary sight, waiting for the right moment to emerge again. Physical evidence, while scarce, adds another layer of intrigue. Scattered across remote regions, archaeologists occasionally report massive skeletal fragments that defy typical human dimensions. In some cave systems, unusually large femurs and skulls have been documented, though mainstream science often dismisses these as hoaxes or misidentified animal bones. There are also reports of oversized tools, implements, and weapons, artifacts that, if real, suggest the presence of beings far larger and stronger than humanity. Then there is the matter of subterranean speculation. Certain legends describe vast underground cities, hidden networks of tunnels and caverns where giants might have survived. From the catacombs of Europe to the unexplored caves of Africa and South America, folklore hints at realms too dangerous and remote for ordinary humans, domains that could shelter beings of extraordinary size. The notion is controversial, but it aligns uncannily with the idea of the Nephilim retreating from the surface world, avoiding divine wrath or human encroachment. But why would the Nephilim survive in hiding rather than perish completely? Some theorists suggest they understood the consequences of their immense power and chose seclusion as a form of self-preservation. Others argue that their supernatural origins, descended from the Watchers, might have granted them abilities to endure what would have been fatal to ordinary life. Whatever the case, the pattern emerges repeatedly across continents. Legends, anomalous artifacts, and unexplained tracks suggest that, in some form, the Nephilim may still exist, shadows of titans, hidden from human eyes. As we move forward, we will explore the relationship between the Nephilim and forbidden knowledge, the arts, sciences, and cosmic wisdom they allegedly imparted to humanity, and how traces of their guidance might still shape our world today. The giants may be gone, but their legacy, intellectual, architectural, and mysterious, lives on. The Nephilim are hidden, yes, but their fingerprints remain everywhere, and the question lingers, how close are we to discovering them again? The Nephilim were not merely giants in stature, they were giants in knowledge, wielding wisdom that humans could barely comprehend. Ancient texts suggest they taught early civilizations arts and sciences far beyond the understanding of ordinary men. This knowledge, often deemed forbidden or dangerous, is what may have cemented their legacy more than their colossal forms ever could. In Mesopotamia, the Anunnaki, whose offspring were the Nephilim, are described as imparting the secrets of astronomy, mathematics, and urban planning. Sumerian tablets, some dating back to 3000 BCE, contain surprisingly advanced calculations of celestial movements, eclipses, and planetary alignments. How could civilizations without telescopes or modern instruments achieve such precision? Some scholars propose that this knowledge came from observation, yet the consistency and accuracy across multiple city-states suggest guidance beyond ordinary human capacity. Could the Nephilim have acted as teachers, mentors, or even overseers in these early astronomical endeavors? The Maya, too, preserve echoes of this influence. Carved stelae and codices describe beings descending from the heavens, showing humans the cycles of the sun, moon, and planets. The Bolon-Yokte, often interpreted as giants or celestial guides, are credited with teaching the construction of monumental pyramids, aligned with solstices and equinoxes, indicating a sophisticated grasp of geometry and timekeeping. Without their instruction, would humans have achieved such feats so early in history? Metallurgy is another domain where the Nephilim may have left their mark. The earliest bronze and iron-working civilizations often appeared abruptly, with techniques so advanced they seem almost premature in the archaeological record. In some traditions, the giants are said to have taught humans how to smelt metals, craft weapons, and forge tools of remarkable durability. Could the sudden emergence of these technologies represent the remnants of a curriculum passed down by beings far taller, stronger, and smarter than any human? Even warfare, according to legend, was influenced by these beings. The Nephilim allegedly taught humans strategy, formation, and siegecraft, combining brute force with cunning biblical texts describe giants as formidable in battle, but they also acted as mentors for early armies. Their knowledge was not merely destructive, it shaped the earliest forms of organized conflict, societal hierarchy and law. Yet the knowledge they left behind was considered dangerous. Many traditions stress that the Nephilim's teachings were forbidden, a double-edged gift. In some stories, humans misused their guidance, turning their creations into weapons of war or tools of oppression. The catastrophic flood described in Genesis, and mirrored in other flood myths worldwide, may have served not only to erase the giants themselves, but also to destroy the knowledge that humans had begun to wield recklessly. What is remarkable is that traces of this wisdom persist today, sometimes encoded in myth, architecture, and mathematics. Megalithic constructions like the pyramids of Giza, Stonehenge, or the megaliths of South America suggest knowledge of angles, weights, and celestial alignment that should have been impossible for the societies credited with building them. Were these structures designed by humans alone, or were they influenced, perhaps even constructed under the supervision, of beings whose scale defied imagination? The notion that the Nephilim imparted forbidden knowledge also appears in folklore worldwide. In Africa, giant figures are credited with teaching early societies agriculture and star maps. In India, texts describe the Daityas, enormous beings who instructed humans in engineering, astronomy, and the use of metals. These accounts all converge on one idea. The Nephilim's knowledge was universal, spanning continents, and preserved in fragmented form across the globe. But there is a darker aspect to this wisdom. Many legends warn that the knowledge was meant to be used sparingly. Those who misused it provoked the wrath of the divine, or the giants themselves. Some scholars even suggest that hidden societies, secret cults, and esoteric traditions today may trace their roots to these early lessons, preserving fragments of Nephilim knowledge long lost to the general population. As we continue, we will explore the artifacts and symbols left behind by the Nephilim, the enigmatic signs carved into stone, and the mysterious structures aligned with cosmic phenomena. For the giant story is not just one of flesh and bone, it is a story of wisdom, power, and warnings encoded in stone and sky alike. If the Nephilim walked the earth, their presence was not limited to flesh and bone. Across continents, mysterious artifacts, symbols, and monuments hint at a civilization, or influence, that was colossal in scale and profound in intent. These signs, often dismissed as coincidence, may represent the remnants of knowledge, power, and purpose left behind by beings far beyond ordinary human capability. Take, for example, the megalithic structures of Malta. Temples like Gantija, built more than 5,500 years ago, predate even the pyramids of Egypt, yet they contain massive limestone blocks weighing upwards of 50 tons. Carved with intricate spirals and concentric circles, these structures appear aligned with celestial events, marking solstices and lunar cycles. Some researchers propose that such precise planning and construction could only have been accomplished under the guidance, or at the very least observation, of beings with extraordinary intellect and strength. Could the Nephilim have designed or overseen these temples as a way of encoding cosmic knowledge for humanity? In South America, Tiwanaku and Pumapunku present a similar enigma. Stones are cut and fitted with unparalleled precision, some weighing hundreds of tons. The joints are so exact that even a knife blade cannot fit between them. Mainstream archaeology attributes this to advanced engineering skills, but many details remain unexplained. How were such massive stones transported? How did early humans, with primitive tools, achieve such precision? Legends from the region speak of giants teaching the first inhabitants how to move these stones, using techniques now lost to time. Even the stars themselves seem to bear the Nephilim's mark. Across ancient Egypt, monuments such as the Giza pyramids are aligned almost perfectly with Orion's belt, a constellation associated with Osiris, the god of the afterlife. Scholars like Robert Bauval have argued that this alignment is no accident. The ancients had knowledge of celestial patterns far beyond their supposed technological reach. Could this understanding have been imparted by beings who once walked the earth, who saw the cosmos as an extension of their terrestrial domain? Symbols carved into stone, too, tell a story. From Sumerian tablets depicting towering beings with elongated heads to Native American petroglyphs of enormous human-like figures, there is a recurring motif. Giants marked human history with their presence. In some cases, these symbols appear alongside astronomical markers or maps, suggesting an understanding of time and space that surpasses conventional explanation. Were these messages meant for humans? Or were they warnings left for other giants, or for future generations who might stumble upon them? Even underwater, mysteries abound. Sunken ruins off the coasts of India, Japan, and the Mediterranean hint at cities and structures too massive for known ancient civilizations. Some researchers speculate that these submerged monuments are remnants of a pre-flood world where the Nephilim or their creators built cities designed to endure catastrophes. These ruins, submerged and forgotten, reinforce the idea that the giants' influence was global, deliberate and enduring. One of the most compelling aspects of these signs is their consistency across cultures. From Europe to Africa, the Americas to Asia, massive stones, celestial alignments, and depictions of giant beings appear again and again. It is as if fragments of a universal blueprint were scattered across the planet, encoded in the very landscape, waiting for humans to rediscover them. Yet, as with all things Nephilim, there is a duality. The symbols are not merely instructional, they are warnings. In some traditions, misinterpretation of these signs brings misfortune or disaster. The builders of these monuments were not merely recording their knowledge, they were embedding a cautionary tale, a message that power without understanding can lead to ruin. As we move deeper into the story, the question becomes, what happened to the Nephilim that made their traces so cryptic, so enigmatic, and so difficult to interpret? In the next section, we will explore the cataclysmic events, natural disasters, and possible divine interventions that may have forced these giants into hiding or annihilation, leaving behind only these enduring signs. The Nephilim left their footprints not only in mud and stone but across the sky itself, challenging humanity to decode the messages of titans who once ruled the earth. The Nephilim did not simply fade from the earth. Every legend, myth, and fragmentary account hints at a cataclysm so vast, so devastating, that it reshaped the very world itself. Whether interpreted as divine judgment, natural disaster, or cosmic upheaval, this event is central to understanding why the giants vanished from human history, or perhaps why they chose to hide. The biblical narrative frames the event as a divine flood. Genesis describes a world corrupted by human wickedness, compounded by the influence of the Nephilim, beings of enormous power, knowledge, and destructive capacity. The earth was filled with violence, the text states, and behold, I will destroy them with the earth. The flood, traditionally understood as a global deluge, was intended to wipe the slate-clean humanity survived, but the Nephilim were largely eradicated, or at least removed from the surface world. The Book of Enoch provides further detail. It suggests that the Watchers themselves were punished for their transgressions, bound in subterranean chasms, while their offspring, the giants, perished, devouring one another in acts of violence. This narrative paints a picture of a world in chaos, where beings too large and powerful to coexist with humanity or nature brought about their own downfall. The flood is not just a story, it is a symbolic and literal reset, a cataclysm that erased a chapter of history far older than recorded civilization. Yet traces of a global catastrophe appear in archaeology and geology. Around 12,000 years ago, the planet experienced abrupt climate changes, massive glacial melting, rising sea levels, and dramatic shifts in weather patterns. Some researchers have proposed the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis, suggesting a comet or asteroid collision triggered widespread fires, flooding, and extinction events. Could these natural disasters correspond to the stories of divine judgment? Were humans and Nephilim alike swept up in a planetary scale reset? Flood myths appear across the globe, each hinting at a memory of cataclysm. From the Mesopotamian epic of Gilgamesh to the Indian Manu stories, from Greek accounts of Deucalion and Pyrrha to the Mayan deluge myths, cultures separated by continents describe an event where water overwhelmed the land, sparing only select humans or heroes. Strikingly, many of these myths also reference enormous beings or sky-descended entities who perished or vanished during the flood. parallels too precise to dismiss as mere coincidence. Some traditions suggest that not all Nephilim were destroyed. Certain legends describe them retreating into mountains, caves, or subterranean realms, effectively removing themselves from the world of men. In these accounts, the cataclysm was both a purge and a warning. Humanity was spared, but the giants learned the consequences of unchecked power, retreating into obscurity while leaving their artifacts, symbols, and teachings behind. There are also theories that the flood served a dual purpose: to erase physical giants while preserving fragments of their knowledge. Megalithic sites that predate the flood, or appear to survive it, may represent encoded instructions, cosmic maps, or warnings. Perhaps the cataclysm was a test, a trial not just for humanity, but for the remnants of divine or hybrid beings. Only those who understood the balance of power, knowledge, and morality could endure. The symbolism is clear. Immense beings, possessing knowledge and power far beyond human capacity, provoked a response that reshaped the world. Their disappearance is not simply a story of extinction. It is a cautionary tale, a narrative warning of the consequences of hubris, violence, and forbidden knowledge. As we move forward in our journey, we will investigate the evidence of Nephilim influence that survived the cataclysm, from strange artifacts and oversized bones to myths and oral histories that persist to this day. For even in their absence, the giants left an indelible mark on the earth, and their story is far from finished. The great cataclysm erased the giants from human sight, but not from memory. And memory, as we will see, has a way of preserving the impossible. The flood and other cataclysms may have destroyed most of the Nephilim, but the world still bears traces of their existence, remnants that challenge conventional history and archaeology. From oversized skeletal fragments to monumental structures that defy explanation, the Earth itself seems to retain the memory of the giants who once walked upon it. In North America, the Paluxy Riverbed in Texas has been a source of fascination and controversy for decades. Large human-like footprints, some over 4 feet long, appear alongside dinosaur tracks, suggesting that enormous beings once shared the landscape with creatures long thought extinct. Critics claim erosion or hoaxes. Yet detailed surveys and photographs from the early 20th century show impressions with consistent toes, arches, and heel structures, far beyond the proportions of ordinary humans. Could these prints belong to the Nephilim, or were they simply natural anomalies misinterpreted by the eager imagination? Skeletal fragments, too, hint at extraordinary beings. Reports from Africa, South America, and Asia describe unusually large bones, some of which were claimed to belong to humans between 10 and 15 feet tall, or larger in Peru. Explorers discovered femurs reportedly over 6 feet long, while in Central Africa, local traditions tell of burial sites of enormous warriors. Many of these finds were lost, destroyed, or ignored by mainstream science, dismissed as exaggeration, misidentification, or fraud. Yet the consistency of these accounts across time and geography is difficult to ignore. Artifacts left behind also raise questions. Oversized tools, weapons, and implements, far too heavy for ordinary humans, are scattered in archaeological layers worldwide. Some of these items are simple: hammers, chisels, and axes, but others are more sophisticated, suggesting craftsmanship and mechanical knowledge. Could these have been used by giants to construct monumental buildings, move massive stones, or shape the terrain in ways that humans could not achieve alone? Megalithic sites continue to fascinate. In addition to the well-known pyramids of Egypt and the ruins of Pumapunku, less studied locations like Karnak in France or Göbekli Tepe in Turkey contain massive stones, precise alignments, and carvings that hint at beings of extraordinary size. Some researchers argue that the scale and precision of these works would have required physical strength far beyond that of average humans. The possibility that remnants of the Nephilim, or knowledge passed down from them, were instrumental in these constructions is tantalizing if controversial. Legends and oral traditions often preserve what physical evidence cannot. Indigenous peoples across the globe speak of giants who survived the flood or other disasters, retreating into mountains, forests, and caves. In South America, the Andes are said to conceal enormous tunnels and subterranean chambers built by these beings. In Africa, remote valleys carry stories of giants who re-emerge to guide or warn local populations. These accounts, while impossible to verify fully, demonstrate the remarkable consistency of Nephilim myths worldwide. Interestingly, some scholars suggest that even our modern myths and symbols may trace back to the Nephilim. Architectural designs, star maps, and esoteric teachings preserved through secret societies may encode the remnants of giant wisdom, passed down through generations who sought to preserve what had nearly been lost in the cataclysm. All of this raises an uncomfortable question. If fragments of the Nephilim survive in stone, bone, and myth, how much do we truly understand about our own history? Could the giants have endured, hidden from sight, quietly influencing humanity from the shadows? Or were they entirely extinguished, leaving behind only echoes of their extraordinary existence? In the next section, we will examine the possibility of modern encounters with the Nephilim, from eyewitness reports to unexplained phenomena that hint the giants may not be entirely gone. For in the aftermath of cataclysm, the giant story does not fully end, it simply becomes more mysterious. The Nephilim may have fallen, but their traces remain etched into the world, daring humanity to uncover the truth. Even after millennia, the Nephilim refuse to be fully forgotten. While most accounts place their disappearance in prehistoric or biblical times, a curious pattern of modern sightings, unexplained phenomena, and anomalous findings suggests that remnants of these colossal beings may still exist, hidden, elusive, and rarely witnessed by human eyes. In the dense forests of the Pacific Northwest, reports of enormous humanoid figures date back centuries. Native American oral traditions speak of giants of the forests, creatures taller than trees, moving silently through the fog. European settlers in the 19th century recorded similar encounters, describing tracks over 2 meters long, deep enough to leave impressions in soft soil, accompanied by snapped trees and strange echoing footsteps. Could these be myth? Or are they distant echoes of the Nephilim surviving in isolated wilderness far from civilization? South America offers its own haunting accounts. In the Andes and Amazon basin, local villagers have told stories of towering beings glimpsed at dawn or dusk, often moving through misty valleys. Witnesses describe immense height, unusual limb proportions, and a commanding presence that evokes both fear and reverence. Some anthropologists dismiss these tales as folklore, yet the consistency and frequency of the reports across remote communities remain remarkable. These sightings, like footprints in stone, are physical traces of memory that refuse to fade. Then there are the mysterious skeletal discoveries occasionally reported by local explorers, often dismissed before proper investigation. In Asia, villagers have reported enormous bones buried in cave systems, far exceeding normal human size. Similar claims surface from Africa and North America, sometimes accompanied by large-scale artifacts or tools. Mainstream archaeology typically ignores or discredits these findings, yet their recurrence across continents suggests a pattern that cannot be entirely explained by misidentification. In North America, the Paluxy River footprints, previously considered isolated, have parallels in other regions. In Mexico, oversized impressions of feet have been found preserved in limestone beds, their lengths and stride distances suggesting beings far larger than ordinary humans. Some researchers argue that these tracks may have been left by a species unknown to science, echoing ancient descriptions of Nephilim-like giants. Even beyond direct sightings and footprints, certain unexplained phenomena hint at giant activity. Forests in remote areas occasionally exhibit trees uprooted in patterns too uniform to be random, and large depressions or cleared areas appear in places inaccessible to modern machinery. Some theorists propose that these could be the result of beings far larger than humans, moving through terrain with immense force and precision. Others speculate about hidden dwellings, enormous caves, subterranean tunnels, and megalithic ruins that remain largely unexplored, possibly sheltering the last of the giants. Interestingly, some of these encounters carry parallels to ancient myths. Witnesses often describe the giants as elusive, wise, or even cautious, observing humans without direct confrontation. This aligns with legends from Sumer, the Americas and Africa, where Nephilim were said to retreat from mortal affairs, leaving traces of knowledge and warnings behind. Could modern sightings represent the same beings, quietly avoiding humanity while retaining a presence on Earth? Of course, skepticism is warranted. Many of these reports may be exaggeration, misinterpretation, or outright fabrication. Yet when taken collectively, footprints, skeletal reports, folklore, and unexplained environmental phenomena, a pattern emerges, a world in which giants may not have disappeared entirely, their story continuing quietly in the shadows. The Nephilim may be a relic of myth, but myth itself often carries truth disguised in narrative. Could the giants be watching still, hiding in remote corners of the earth, preserving their legacy and guarding secrets humanity is not yet ready to uncover? In the next section, we will explore the Nephilim's possible cosmic origins, delving into theories that connect them to extraterrestrial realms, otherworldly dimensions, and the Watchers who descended from the heavens. Even today, their echoes reverberate through forests, mountains, and ruins, reminders that the giants of old may not have vanished as completely as history claims. To understand the Nephilim, we cannot limit ourselves to Earth alone. Ancient texts and myths suggest these giants were not entirely human. They were born from the Watchers, celestial beings who descended from the heavens. The very word Nephilim is often interpreted as fallen ones, hinting at a hybrid existence, a union of the terrestrial and the divine. Their origins therefore may be as cosmic as they are corporeal. The Book of Enoch provides one of the most vivid accounts. It describes angels, Watchers, who gazed upon humanity and chose to descend. Their offspring, the Nephilim, were neither fully divine nor fully human, but something far greater and far more dangerous. These giants inherited not only size and strength, but also knowledge, astronomy, metallurgy, architecture, and even sorcery. Some scholars suggest this knowledge may have originated in the heavens themselves, passed down through the Nephilim to early civilizations. Sumerian mythology offers a parallel narrative. The Anunnaki, described as sky beings from Nibiru or another celestial body, arrived on Earth to mine precious resources. Some interpretations suggest that they interbred with humans, creating a hybrid population of extraordinary beings, giants with the intellect and strength of their divine progenitors. This correlation between Mesopotamian and biblical accounts is striking. Both speak of a hybrid race of enormous beings descending from the skies to shape the destiny of humankind. Even in the Americas, myths of giants reflect a cosmic connection. The Maya described the Bolonyokte as beings who came from the stars to teach the people about the cycles of the cosmos, imparting knowledge that influenced architecture, agriculture, and ceremonial life. In India, the Daityas were said to descend from celestial realms to influence the terrestrial world, wielding power far beyond ordinary humans. Across cultures, the theme is consistent. Giants are linked to the heavens, bringing knowledge, power, and often moral ambiguity. This celestial origin raises fascinating questions about the Nephilim's physiology. Were their enormous bodies a result of divine engineering, a fusion of human DNA with something beyond our comprehension? Did their size and strength come naturally, or were they enhanced through supernatural or extraterrestrial means? Some theorists propose that the Nephilim were essentially biological hybrids, designed for a specific purpose on Earth, perhaps to guide humanity, to teach, or to serve as enforcers of a cosmic order. The idea of extraterrestrial or otherworldly origins also ties into the anomalies we've discussed: oversized bones, megalithic constructions, and precise astronomical knowledge. Could the Nephilim's understanding of the stars and the universe stem from their celestial lineage? And if so, does this imply that humans were guided, or even genetically influenced, by beings from beyond our world? Some fringe theories go further, suggesting the Watchers were not benevolent overseers, but extraterrestrial colonizers, and that the Nephilim were engineered as intermediaries, giants capable of imposing the Watchers' will on the fledgling human race. This would cast the biblical narrative of divine punishment in a new light, not merely moral judgment, but intervention in a complex cosmic experiment. Whether the Nephilim were the product of angels, aliens, or a fusion of both, one thing is clear: their origins are not entirely of this earth. Their legacy, footprints, ruins, myths, and knowledge, carries the unmistakable signature of beings who straddled worlds, whose existence challenged natural law, and whose influence shaped the trajectory of human civilization. In the next section, we will explore the symbolism of the Nephilim in sacred texts, examining how their story has been encoded in scripture, prophecy, and hidden knowledge across millennia. For understanding their cosmic origins is only the first step. Interpreting the lessons they left behind may reveal why humanity was never meant to coexist with such power. The giants may have walked among us, but their story begins in the heavens, and perhaps it never truly ends. The Nephilim were not only physical giants, they were symbols, messengers, and warnings embedded deeply in human consciousness. Across sacred texts and myths, their story is coded with layers of meaning, hinting at divine, moral, and cosmic truths that remain partially hidden even today. To truly understand their legacy, we must look beyond size and strength, into the realm of symbolism and prophecy. The Hebrew Bible, the primary source of the Nephilim narrative, presents them as both awe-inspiring and terrifying. Genesis 6 describes them as the mighty men who were of old, the men of renown, emphasizing their exceptional nature. But the context is equally important. Their existence coincides with humanity's moral decay, suggesting a connection between extraordinary power and ethical corruption. Scholars have long debated whether the Nephilim are literal beings or allegorical symbols, representing the consequences of hubris, forbidden knowledge, or the unnatural mixing of divine and human realms. Yet the biblical text repeatedly hints at literal events, with genealogies, locations, and historical markers that anchor the Nephilim in reality. The Book of Enoch expands this symbolism, portraying the giants as a bridge between heaven and earth. Their size and power are literal, but their transgressions are metaphorical, a warning of the dangers inherent in the misuse of knowledge and strength. The Nephilim serve as a narrative device. They embody the tension between potential and limitation, the peril of exceeding natural boundaries, and the consequences of ignoring cosmic or divine law. In this sense, they are both historical and moral actors, teaching humanity through example and catastrophe. Across cultures, similar symbolism emerges. The Anunnaki of Mesopotamia are portrayed as rulers and teachers, yet their stories also caution against arrogance and rebellion. The Mayas' Bolon Yokte were revered for their wisdom, but their myths warn of imbalance when power is wielded without understanding. In India, the deities appear as giants with divine knowledge, yet many tales emphasize their eventual downfall, often at the hands of gods or cosmic forces, illustrating the recurring theme of punishment for overreach. Even physical artifacts carry symbolic meaning. Megalithic structures, aligned with solstices or celestial bodies, can be read as encoded warnings. Stone carvings, oversized footprints, and subterranean chambers are more than monuments, they are messages. Scholars and theorists suggest that these sites communicate cautionary tales about power, ethics, and humanity's relationship to forces beyond comprehension. Could the Nephilim have deliberately embedded their legacy in this way, ensuring that even if they vanished, their lessons would endure? Prophecy is another layer of symbolism. Some scholars argue that texts referencing the return of giants, or hints of a new era when the Nephilim walk among humans again, are warnings encoded in sacred history. These prophecies often emphasize cyclical time, morality, and the consequences of violating natural or divine law. They suggest that humanity's relationship with colossal power is not merely historical, it is ongoing, woven into the fabric of our spiritual and moral universe. The symbolic resonance of the Nephilim extends into modern culture as well. Myths, legends, and even folklore continue to depict giants as both teachers and destroyers, reflecting deep-seated archetypes in human psychology. They represent the struggle between awe and fear, knowledge and hubris, creation and destruction. To study the Nephilim is therefore not merely to examine bones or footprints, it is to confront humanity's understanding of its own limits and responsibilities. In the next section, we will explore the Nephilim's influence on megalithic architecture and hidden engineering, examining how their knowledge may have shaped some of the greatest ancient structures on Earth. The lessons they encoded in stone, aligned with the heavens, may hold secrets we are only beginning to comprehend. The Nephilim live on not only in myths, bones, and ruins, but in the very symbols that shape human understanding of power, knowledge, and morality. The legacy of the Nephilim is etched not only in myth and scripture, but in stone and steel, in structures so massive and precise that their construction continues to baffle archaeologists and engineers alike. From the pyramids of Egypt to the megalithic ruins of South America, the fingerprints of the giants seem to be everywhere. encoded in architecture, geometry, and cosmic alignment. Consider Göbekli Tepe in modern-day Turkey, a site over 11,000 years old, predating Stonehenge by millennia. Massive T-shaped stone pillars, some weighing up to 20 tons, are carved with depictions of animals, humans, and celestial motifs. The scale of the construction, the precision of the carvings, and the alignment with astronomical events suggest knowledge far beyond what humans of that era should have possessed. Could the Nephilim, with their legendary size and intellect, have provided the oversight or even labour required to achieve such feats? In Egypt, the Great Pyramid of Giza presents similar enigmas. Beyond its sheer size, scholars marvel at the precision with which the stones were cut, aligned, and positioned. Some researchers argue that the blocks were cut using tools no longer available, while others suggest that their placement required knowledge of mathematics, astronomy, and physics that seems anachronistic for 2500 BCE. Ancient Egyptian texts describe beings descending from the sky, providing wisdom to early rulers, beings who could be interpreted as Nephilim or their mentors, the Watchers. South America offers equally compelling examples. Puma Punku and Tiwanaku in Bolivia contain enormous stone blocks, precisely cut and interlocked, some weighing over 130 tons. The level of engineering precision is extraordinary. Right angles, perfectly flat surfaces, and joints so tight that even a razor blade cannot pass through. Local legends credit giants with teaching the original inhabitants to manipulate stone on a scale impossible for ordinary humans. Here again, the Nephilim emerge as architects, engineers, and bearers of forbidden knowledge. Megalithic sites in Europe further reinforce the pattern. The Karnak stones in France and Stonehenge in England are aligned with solstices, lunar cycles, and star patterns. The labour required to transport and arrange these stones would have been immense, yet the construction methods remain largely speculative. Could giants have served as the workforce, the engineers, or both? And if so, does this suggest a global network of Nephilim influence, linking distant civilizations through shared knowledge of the cosmos? Even underground, remnants hint at hidden expertise. Subterranean tunnels and chambers in Europe, Africa, and the Americas reveal precise stonework that ancient humans could barely replicate. Some theorists propose that the giants designed these hidden spaces as repositories for knowledge, tools, or sacred artifacts, vaults intended to endure even cataclysms. These engineering marvels suggest deliberate planning, intelligence, and skill far exceeding what humans of the era could accomplish alone. One of the most fascinating aspects is cosmic alignment. Across continents, Nephilim-linked structures often correlate with stars, planetary movements, or solstices. This implies an understanding of astronomy that is consistent with myths describing giants teaching humans about the heavens. Could the giants have been encoding knowledge about the cosmos, ensuring that humanity could one day rediscover it? Perhaps their construction served not only functional or ceremonial purposes, but as living libraries, monuments to knowledge and power. Yet there is a caution embedded in these blueprints. Many legends suggest that the Nephilim's constructions were dangerous if misused. Structures aligned with cosmic forces, tools engineered for giants, and lessons encoded in stone could all carry unintended consequences if humanity misunderstood them. The builders were not merely architects. They were teachers issuing warnings, embedding morality into engineering, and leaving puzzles that challenge human perception even millennia later. In the next section, we will explore the Nephilim's role in the development of early human civilizations, tracing how their presence influenced governance, culture, and social hierarchies. For the giants were not just builders, they were rulers, mentors, and silent architects of human destiny. The Nephilim shaped the earth in stone and sky, leaving monuments that continue to whisper their secrets across time. The Nephilim were not mere bystanders in human history. According to myth and legend, they played an active role in shaping early civilizations, influencing governance, law, and the structures of society itself. Their towering presence was matched only by their intellect, and their impact on the formation of organized human communities may have been profound. In Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization, the Sumerians described the Anunnaki as skyborn rulers who descended to guide humanity. The Nephilim, their colossal offspring, were often depicted as enforcers of divine law. Some historians interpret this as mythologized memory of a period when hybrid beings, part divine, part human, helped organize the first city-states, teaching humans how to govern, trade, and establish social hierarchies. Uruk, Ur, and Eridu were more than cities. They were models of order, law, and celestial alignment, suggesting oversight from beings whose wisdom far exceeded that of ordinary humans. The influence of giants extended to legal codes as well. The Code of Ur-Nammu and later the Code of Hammurabi display advanced understanding of justice, ethics, and societal balance. Legends suggest that the Nephilim played a hand in shaping these principles, ensuring that humans learned to maintain order. The very idea of divinely inspired kingship may have originated from the towering authority of the Nephilim, whose size and knowledge naturally commanded obedience. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, Mesoamerican civilizations echo similar patterns. The Maya and Aztecs credit their early rulers with guidance from enormous celestial beings. The Bolon Yokte were said to teach the principles of leadership, agriculture, and astronomy, embedding rules and rituals that would govern society for generations. Pyramids and ceremonial plazas were not merely religious centers, they were administrative hubs, designed under guidance from beings capable of understanding both human and cosmic order. Even in Africa, traditions describe giant figures establishing the first communities, introducing agriculture, irrigation, and governance systems. Oral histories speak of beings so powerful that humans deferred to them as kings, judges, and advisors. These stories are echoed across multiple cultures, revealing a recurring theme. Wherever giants appear in legend, human society emerges with sophistication, organization, and structure. The Nephilim's influence extended beyond law to military organization. Many myths describe them teaching humans the art of warfare, both strategic and practical. Giant warriors were said to demonstrate formations, siegecraft, and the use of weapons, ensuring humans could defend their settlements against rivals. Some interpretations suggest this knowledge enabled early civilizations to endure cataclysms, invasions, and environmental challenges, essentially laying the foundation for the survival of complex societies. Cultural influence was also immense. Myths, rituals, and religious structures frequently bear the mark of the giants' guidance. From astronomical alignments in temples to encoded moral lessons in myths, the Nephilim's fingerprints are everywhere. Their legacy was not only functional, it was symbolic, reinforcing authority, morality, and cosmic order. They became both rulers and mentors, shaping civilization while remaining largely hidden from history. Yet there is a cautionary aspect. Many legends stress that the Nephilim's guidance was dangerous if misused. Societies that strayed from the balance they taught faced calamity, while those who heeded their lessons prospered. In this sense, the giants were not benevolent rulers. They were teachers issuing warnings, blending mentorship with moral oversight, guiding humans while leaving the consequences of misuse clear. In the next section, we will examine the Nephilim's connection to sacred knowledge and forbidden technologies, exploring how their teachings influence science, architecture, and spiritual understanding. For the giants' influence on society was inseparable from their imparted wisdom, which may have shaped human progress far more than we realize. The Nephilim were rulers, mentors, and architects of human destiny, leaving a legacy that still echoes through governance, law, and society today. The giants were not just rulers or builders, they were keepers of forbidden knowledge, a legacy of wisdom, technology, and cosmic understanding that humans were only beginning to grasp. Across myths and ancient texts, the Nephilim are portrayed as transmitters of knowledge that was both wondrous and dangerous, capable of elevating civilization or destroying it. In Mesopotamia, Sumerian texts suggest the Anunnaki taught humans writing, mathematics, and astronomy. The Nephilim, their colossal offspring, were said to oversee the application of this knowledge, guiding early humans in architecture, irrigation, and governance. The question arises, how could civilizations suddenly develop sophisticated skills without guidance from beings of extraordinary capability? Some scholars propose that this was the result of direct instruction by the giants, knowledge too complex to evolve solely through trial and error. Astronomy appears repeatedly in Nephilim lore. Ancient civilizations, from Sumer to Egypt to the Maya, demonstrated precise knowledge of celestial cycles, eclipses, and planetary movements. For example, the Great Pyramid of Giza aligns almost perfectly with Orion's belt, a correlation that ancient humans could scarcely have discovered unaided. Could this knowledge have been inherited from the giants, whose understanding of the cosmos surpassed human comprehension? The evidence suggests that their teachings were encoded in stone, sky, and myth alike. Metallurgy and engineering were also domains shaped by the giants. Legends speak of massive tools, weapons, and implements that could only be wielded by beings of enormous strength. The sudden emergence of bronze and iron working in disparate regions, sometimes with little precedent, raises the question: did the Nephilim share the secrets of smelting, forging, and structural engineering with select humans, guiding civilizations to new heights? But the knowledge of the Nephilim was dangerous. Many myths warn that misuse could bring catastrophe. The Book of Enoch describes how the giants' teachings were corrupted by humans, leading to violence, warfare, and the eventual need for divine intervention, the flood. Similarly, legends from South America and India emphasize that certain knowledge was forbidden to ordinary humans, intended only for those capable of understanding and respecting its power. This duality, gift and warning, is central to the Nephilim story. Sacred knowledge also encompassed spiritual and metaphysical realms. Some texts imply that the giants understood the flow of energy in nature, the cycles of life and death, and the alignment of humanity with the cosmos. Temples, megaliths, and ritual sites are believed to be conduits for this knowledge, encoded with mathematics, geometry, and astronomy. Observing these sites, one cannot help but feel that the giants were not only teaching technology but also imparting spiritual insight, linking humans to forces far beyond their ordinary perception. Some researchers even suggest that the Nephilim's knowledge has persisted in hidden or secret traditions. Esoteric societies, occult teachings, and forgotten manuscripts may carry fragments of the giants' wisdom, preserved through clandestine transmission across generations. Whether through oral traditions, symbolic carvings, or coded texts, the giants ensured that their knowledge would survive, even if their physical presence vanished. Yet the central mystery remains. If the Nephilim were truly capable of shaping civilizations through wisdom and technology, why did their presence disappear from mainstream history? Perhaps it was fear, divine intervention, or self-preservation that forced them into hiding. Or perhaps their knowledge was deliberately fragmented, leaving humanity to rediscover it slowly, over centuries, guided by myth and intuition. In the next section, we will explore the Nephilim's influence on monumental warfare, including legendary battles, defensive structures, and their role in shaping military strategy in early civilizations. For the giants' knowledge extended far beyond stone and sky. It permeated the very way humans fought, organized, and survived. The Nephilim were not merely giants. They were guardians of forbidden wisdom, architects of knowledge, and silent mentors to civilizations yet to understand their full potential. The Nephilim were not merely architects, rulers, or teachers. They were also warriors, both feared and revered. Across myths and ancient texts, these colossal beings are portrayed as central figures in early battles, shaping human warfare with a combination of brute strength, strategic insight, and, in some accounts, supernatural abilities. Their influence may have defined the very way early civilizations fought, defended themselves, and understood conflict. In the Bible, the Nephilim are described as mighty men of old, men of renown, often associated with formidable feats in combat. Some interpretations suggest that their sheer size, sometimes described as 300 feet in height, gave them a physical advantage unmatched by ordinary humans. Legends recount how these giants wielded enormous weapons, toppled city walls, and struck fear into armies of men. Their presence alone may have determined the outcome of battles, shaping the fates of entire civilizations. Mesopotamian texts offer parallel accounts. The Anunnaki are often depicted as warlike overseers, instructing human armies in strategy, formation, and siegecraft. Some historians argue that these stories reflect memories of the Nephilim teaching humans to fight effectively, organizing the first city-state's defenses, and introducing structured military tactics. The giants' influence is seen in early fortifications, walls, and city planning, which exhibit remarkable foresight and engineering sophistication, suggesting guidance beyond human capability. In South America, The Maya and Inca myths recount towering beings who trained humans in martial arts and the use of weapons crafted for enormous strength. Legends describe how giants instructed early warriors to defend sacred cities and ceremonial centers, ensuring survival against hostile tribes and environmental challenges. Some archaeological sites, such as Sacsayhuaman, contain walls and massive stone blocks that may have been easier to manipulate under the supervision or labor of extraordinary beings. Could these giants have been the teachers, commanders, and enforcers behind the earliest military innovations? Even in Africa, oral histories describe enormous warriors who fought alongside humans, protecting communities and establishing social order. These giants, sometimes referred to as demigods or skyborn beings, are said to have passed on strategies for organized combat, fortification, and territorial defense. Across continents, a pattern emerges. The Nephilim were associated with war not merely as participants, but as instructors, imparting knowledge that shaped early civilizations' capacity for survival. Yet the Nephilim were not merely instruments of conflict, they were cautionary figures. Many legends warn that human misuse of their teachings led to destruction. According to the Book of Enoch, the giants' knowledge contributed to corruption and violence, provoking divine wrath, and ultimately the great cataclysm, warfare, in this context was both a practical and moral test. It measured whether humans could wield power responsibly. The giants taught skill, yes, but always under the shadow of consequence. Interestingly, some scholars argue that the Nephilim's impact on warfare may extend beyond the battlefield. Strategic city layouts, defense networks, and even ancient siege engines suggest engineering knowledge consistent with guidance from beings far stronger and more intelligent than humans alone. Their influence appears not only in tactics, but in the very design of civilizations, shaping settlements to withstand both human and natural threats. Some fringe theorists even speculate that remnants of the Nephilim's martial teachings persist in modern esoteric traditions. Secret societies and military rites may preserve fragments of their strategy, weapon design, or understanding of human conflict. Though obscured by time, the giants' lessons could still resonate in ways humanity has yet to fully recognize. In the next section, we will examine the mysterious disappearance of the Nephilim, exploring theories about why they vanished from the historical record and whether any may have survived in secret refuges across the globe. The Nephilim were more than giants. They were warriors, tacticians, and mentors, leaving behind a legacy of conflict, strategy, and cautionary power that shaped the very foundations of human civilization. The Nephilim were once visible, awe-inspiring figures whose presence dominated the earth. And yet, in a relatively short span of history, or myth, they vanished. Their disappearance remains one of the greatest mysteries in human memory, a puzzle that has puzzled historians, archaeologists, and mythologists for centuries. How could beings of such immense size, strength, and influence simply disappear from the world? The most widely cited explanation comes from biblical and mythological sources: divine intervention. The Book of Genesis describes the Nephilim as part of the reason for humanity's corruption, and the Great Flood as a tool to cleanse the earth. In this account, the giants, along with the corruption they introduced, were eradicated to preserve the balance of creation. Yet this raises questions. If the Nephilim were partially divine, how could they be destroyed entirely? Some scholars argue that destruction might be symbolic, representing a forced retreat, imprisonment, or exile rather than literal annihilation. The Book of Enoch provides additional details. According to its narrative, the Watchers who fathered the Nephilim were punished, bound in subterranean chasms, while their offspring perished in battles or succumbed to natural calamities. This account suggests a combination of divine retribution and environmental catastrophe. The Nephilim may have been wiped out in a global cataclysm, one that humans remember through flood myths, extreme weather records, and archaeological evidence of sudden societal collapses. Geological and climatological research lends some support to the cataclysm theory. Around 12,000 years ago, the Earth underwent rapid climate change. Glacial melting, rising seas, and catastrophic storms disrupted human settlements worldwide. Some scientists propose that meteor impacts or massive earthquakes could have further devastated ancient populations. Could the Nephilim, already endangered by divine judgment, have been physically destroyed or forced into hiding by such events. The timing aligns intriguingly with flood myths and the sudden disappearance of certain early civilizations. Other theories suggest the Nephilim retreated into hidden refuges. Many myths speak of giants disappearing into mountains, deep caves, or subterranean networks. Indigenous legends from Africa, South America, and Asia describe enormous beings who survived in isolation, re-emerging occasionally to guide or warn humans. These tales suggest that the giants were not entirely gone, but instead withdrew from human society, preserving themselves until the world was ready, or until they deemed it safe to return. Some fringe theories propose an extraterrestrial escape. If the Nephilim were hybrids of celestial watchers and humans, it's possible they returned to the heavens or other realms. This could explain the sudden cessation of physical evidence and their disappearance from historical records. Stories of sky-descended beings, both in Sumer and Mesoamerica, hint at a potential ability to move beyond Earth, leaving behind traces of knowledge and artifacts but no living witnesses. Yet, even in disappearance, the Nephilim left clues. Oversized bones, massive structures, and enigmatic symbols continue to surface sporadically around the world. Could these be markers of refuge locations, remnants of survival, or intentional messages left by giants to signal their existence to future generations? Some researchers argue that these scattered traces suggest selective survival, rather than total annihilation. The question lingers: if the Nephilim truly disappeared, why does human culture continue to remember them? From myths and sacred texts to folklore and modern sightings, their influence persists. Perhaps their vanishing was deliberate, a lesson, a warning, or a test of humanity. Or perhaps the giants never fully left at all, quietly existing in the shadows, shaping human civilization without revealing themselves. In the next section, we will explore modern interpretations and sightings of the Nephilim, examining how legends have persisted into contemporary times and what evidence exists that the giants may still influence the world today. The giants vanished from sight, yet they remain a lingering presence in memory, myth, and mystery, a disappearance that continues to challenge our understanding of history, nature, and the cosmos. Even after millennia, the Nephilim refuse to be fully erased from human consciousness. Across continents, cultures, and centuries, stories persist, accounts of giants, mysterious beings, and inexplicable events that suggest the Nephilim may still cast a shadow over the modern world. In the United States, reports of enormous humanoid footprints in remote areas have fascinated researchers and enthusiasts for decades. The Paluxy River tracks in Texas, some over 4 feet long, have been documented and photographed since the 1930s. While skeptics attribute them to erosion, hoaxes, or misidentified dinosaur tracks, their size and proportion remain difficult to reconcile with human origins. Similarly, unexplained skeletal remains occasionally surface in Africa, South America, and Asia, some allegedly belonging to humans far taller than modern populations. Though many of these discoveries are dismissed or lost, the pattern is persistent. Eyewitness reports further fuel intrigue. Indigenous communities in the Pacific Northwest speak of forest giants, massive beings moving silently among the trees. In the Andes, villagers describe enormous figures appearing at dawn, watching from misty valleys, only to vanish as quickly as they appeared. Some interpret these encounters as remnants of the Nephilim, hidden from human eyes, but still connected to the earth and its mysteries. Across cultures, these sightings share remarkable similarities: towering size, humanoid features, and a presence that commands both fear and respect. Archaeological anomalies add another layer to the puzzle. In South America, Puma Punku and Tiwanaku contain massive stone blocks, some weighing hundreds of tons, with construction techniques that remain largely unexplained. Legends attribute these works to giants or sky-descended beings. In Europe, sites like Göbekli Tepe and Karnak suggest advanced knowledge of geometry, astronomy, and engineering that some argue could only have been imparted by beings with extraordinary abilities. Could these sites still be markers of Nephilim presence, preserved intentionally or incidentally over millennia? Even today, fringe theories speculate that remnants of Nephilim influence survive in secret societies, esoteric teachings, and encoded knowledge. Some researchers propose that hidden texts, underground chambers, and symbolic carvings contain fragments of the giants' wisdom, preserved to guide humanity when the time is right, or to warn against misuse of powerful knowledge. While mainstream science remains skeptical, the consistency of stories across geography and culture cannot be ignored. Interestingly, some modern interpretations see the Nephilim not as literal giants, but as archetypal figures, embodying humanity's fascination with power, morality, and the unknown. In this view, sightings, myths, and artifacts are symbolic reflections of our relationship with forces far beyond our comprehension, cosmic, moral, or otherwise. Even so, the physical traces, bones, footprints, and colossal constructions remain difficult to explain away entirely. Reports of unexplained phenomena often accompany sightings. Forests bear strangely cleared paths, massive depressions, and areas where trees are snapped as if by immense force. Some researchers speculate these could be evidence of hidden activity, whether from surviving giants, remnants of ancient engineering, or a natural world still shaped by forces we cannot fully perceive. These traces hint at a Nephilim presence that is elusive, mysterious, and deeply intertwined with the planet's history. Ultimately, the persistence of the Nephilim in modern consciousness raises profound questions. Are they truly gone, or merely hidden? Do the giants continue to influence humanity subtly, through knowledge, myth, or even genetic legacy? And if so, what purpose does their continued presence serve? A warning, a guide, or a test of human understanding? In the next section, we will explore the Nephilim's possible genetic legacy, examining whether modern humans may carry traces of their extraordinary lineage, and what implications this holds for our understanding of history, evolution, and identity. The Nephilim may have disappeared from sight, but their shadow lingers, a reminder that history is never as complete as it seems, and that giants may still walk among the echoes of the earth. One of the most intriguing questions surrounding the Nephilim is whether their genetic legacy survives in humanity today. If the Nephilim were truly hybrids, offspring of celestial watchers and human women, their DNA might have been carried through generations, subtly influencing human physiology, intelligence, and perhaps even destiny. Across cultures and myths, hints of extraordinary human traits suggest that fragments of these ancient bloodlines may still exist. Biblical texts describe the Nephilim as mighty men of renown, emphasizing not only size but also extraordinary capabilities. Their offspring are depicted as physically imposing, intellectually advanced, and capable of feats beyond ordinary humans. If even a portion of this hybrid lineage persisted after the Great Cataclysm, it could explain anomalous skeletal remains, sudden surges in intelligence or ingenuity in ancient societies, and the rapid emergence of civilizations with advanced knowledge. Some researchers point to mythical lineages of kings and rulers as possible carriers of Nephilim blood. Sumerian and Mesopotamian kings claimed descent from the Anunnaki, a divine race associated with the giants. Similarly, ancient Egyptian pharaohs were sometimes described as having divine ancestry, with rituals emphasizing their semi-divine status. Could these rulers have inherited fragments of Nephilim DNA, enabling them to wield extraordinary authority and accomplish feats that ordinary humans could not? Beyond rulers, folklore contains tales of individuals with exceptional size, strength, or intellect, often described as descendants of giants or skyborne beings. Across Europe, Africa, and the Americas, stories tell of families producing unusually tall members, some capable of remarkable physical feats. While some of these accounts may be exaggerated, their widespread consistency raises the possibility of a surviving genetic imprint, an echo of the Nephilim's extraordinary nature. Modern genetics may hold further clues. Studies of rapid evolutionary changes, anomalies in human height, and rare physiological traits could hint at ancient hybridization events. While mainstream science does not acknowledge Nephilim ancestry, the concept of ancient gene flow from unknown or now extinct populations is increasingly plausible. Could the Nephilim represent one such source, an ancient genetic experiment or interbreeding event that shaped early human evolution? In addition to physical traits, some theorists suggest that the Nephilim's mental and spiritual capacities might persist in certain lineages. Myths often describe giants as not only strong but wise, with knowledge of the stars, mathematics, and cosmic order. If these traits had a genetic component, it is conceivable that some humans today carry latent capacities inherited from these ancient beings, expressed in exceptional talents, intuition, or even esoteric abilities. Religious and mystical traditions reinforce this idea. Certain families, sects, or priestly orders claim special insight or spiritual authority, sometimes tracing their ancestry to celestial or giant progenitors. While these claims are difficult to verify, they reflect a global awareness of extraordinary lineages and the possibility that the Nephilim's influence was preserved, not just culturally, but biologically. Yet the survival of Nephilim bloodlines may have been selective. Myths often speak of hybrid descendants being diluted, hidden, or marginalized, ensuring that humanity at large remained in balance. The giants' genetic legacy may not be obvious, but traces could endure in scattered populations, rare individuals, or secretive bloodlines, carrying within them a fragment of a past that challenges our understanding of human history. In the next section, we will explore the Nephilim and prophetic visions, examining how myths and sacred texts hint at the possible return of these giants, or the awakening of their legacy in modern times. For if their bloodlines persist, so too might their influence, waiting for a moment in history when it will once again emerge. The Nephilim may have vanished physically, but their genetic echoes remind us that the line between myth and reality is often far thinner than we imagine. If the Nephilim left behind bones, ruins, and bloodlines, could they also have left prophetic warnings, messages encoded in myths, scripture, and visions, hinting at a time when their presence might re-emerge? Across cultures, sacred texts and folklore describe the Nephilim not merely as ancient figures, but as beings whose influence spans time, whose return could signify both revelation and upheaval. In the Hebrew Bible, prophetic texts occasionally reference the giants as a measure of human morality and divine judgment. Some scholars interpret passages in Numbers and Deuteronomy as warnings that the giants, or their offspring, might one day return if humanity strays too far from balance. The fear of their re-emergence underscores the enduring tension between immense power and human responsibility. Could these prophecies also contain coded instructions, urging humans to prepare for, or prevent, the revival of Nephilim influence? The Book of Enoch is even more explicit. It describes visions of the Watchers and their offspring returning to the earth, observing the descendants of humans and enacting judgment upon those who misuse knowledge. While often considered allegorical, the text consistently portrays the giants as cosmic regulators, guardians of order, whose presence is tied to cycles of morality and catastrophe. Some researchers argue that this cyclical view implies the Nephilim may not be gone forever, but merely dormant, awaiting a time when their intervention will again be necessary. Prophetic visions are not limited to the Abrahamic tradition. In Mesoamerican cultures, the Maya described the Bolon Yocte, sky beings who would return during epochs of cosmic realignment. These beings, often depicted as tall, powerful, and wise, were said to guide humanity through periods of turmoil or transformation. Similarly, South American and African myths speak of giants emerging during times of upheaval to restore balance or teach lost knowledge. Across the globe, the pattern is consistent. The Nephilim are both warnings and teachers, appearing when humanity faces moral or existential crises. Even in modern times, anecdotal accounts of unexplained phenomena, gigantic footprints, and shadowy figures echo the prophetic warnings of the ancients. Some enthusiasts argue that the Nephilim are already observing humanity, waiting for conditions that align with ancient cycles, or for knowledge and technology to reach a level that would justify their re-emergence. While these claims remain speculative, the consistency of folklore and modern reports suggests a persistent cultural memory, one that continues to frame the giants as both awe-inspiring and cautionary figures. These prophecies also intertwine with human morality. Across myths, the Nephilim are never neutral. They are agents of cosmic law, their appearance tied to human ethical failings or the misuse of knowledge. Whether in biblical texts, Mesopotamian legends, or indigenous lore, their return is often framed as a response to imbalance, a corrective force that ensures the continuity of order and wisdom. This theme suggests that the Nephilim are not mere myth, but symbols of accountability, reminding humanity of the consequences of hubris and the delicate balance between power and responsibility. Some theorists even suggest that the giants' prophetic legacy might be encoded in hidden structures and astronomical alignments. Megalithic sites, pyramids, and temples may serve as markers of timing, alerting humanity to cycles when Nephilim influence could be more active or when the world is particularly vulnerable to their intervention. This perspective frames ancient architecture not only as monuments of human achievement but as instruments of cosmic foresight, linking prophecy, giants, and the Earth's rhythms. In the next section, we will conclude our journey with Section 23, tying together the Nephilim's physical, spiritual, and cultural legacies and reflecting on their enduring mystery. For the giant story is far from over. It continues in our myths, our blood, and the visions of what might one day return. The Nephilim may lie dormant, their bones buried and their presence hidden, but prophecy reminds us that they are not entirely absent. They endure as warnings, guides, and enigmas, straddling the line between history, myth, and the future yet to come. The Nephilim, giants of legend, hybrid offspring of celestial watchers and human women, walked the earth in a time long before recorded history, leaving behind an enduring imprint. Bones, ruins, myths, and even whispers in the wind testify to their existence. Their story is one of extraordinary physical presence, unparalleled knowledge, and profound influence on the rise of human civilization. And yet, despite their disappearance from plain sight, the legacy of the giants endures, scattered across time, geography, and culture. From the colossal footprints in Texas and Mexico to the ruins of Puma Punku and Göbekli Tepe, their physical traces hint at a reality that challenges conventional understanding. These remnants suggest that the giants were not mere myth, but powerful beings capable of feats beyond human comprehension. Their influence on architecture, engineering, and cosmic alignment demonstrates intelligence and skill that bridge the terrestrial and the divine. Every stone they moved, every megalithic structure they left behind is both a monument and a message. Encoded knowledge meant to survive cataclysm, time, and human forgetfulness. Yet the Nephilim were more than builders. They were rulers, teachers, and warriors. Early civilizations reflect their guidance in governance, law, and social order. From Sumer to Egypt to Mesoamerica, human societies flourished under principles that were perhaps imparted by these extraordinary beings. Legends of kings and priests claiming celestial ancestry suggest that hybrid bloodlines may have influenced human development, infusing intelligence, strength, and leadership into select individuals. Even modern myths hint at the possibility that fragments of Nephilim DNA persist, a quiet reminder that the giants' impact may endure in ways we cannot yet fully recognize. The spiritual and symbolic significance of the Nephilim is equally profound. Sacred texts, myths, and prophecies portray them as both warnings and guides, guardians of balance and morality. Their presence was tied to cycles of human virtue and vice, the misuse of knowledge, and the fragility of cosmic order. Ancient prophecies suggest that their influence is cyclical, hidden, dormant, yet ever-present, awaiting conditions that could prompt re-emergence. Their story is not merely historical, it is ethical and metaphysical, a cautionary tale intertwined with the moral trajectory of humanity. Modern encounters, from shadowy figures in forests to unexplained skeletal discoveries, continue to hint at the Nephilim's lingering presence. Whether interpreted literally or symbolically, these phenomena remind us that the boundary between myth and reality is often more porous than we believe. Stories of giants persist because they speak to something universal, the human fascination with power, knowledge, and the unknown, and the consequences of overstepping natural and divine boundaries. The Nephilim's legacy also raises profound philosophical questions. Were they here to teach, to warn, or to test humanity? Did they vanish entirely, or did they retreat into hidden realms, leaving clues for future generations to discover? Perhaps their greatest gift was not their physical prowess, but the challenge they left behind, to understand our world, our history, and ourselves in relation to forces far greater than our comprehension. As we reflect on the giants, we confront the possibility that human history is only a fragment of a far greater story. Bones, ruins, myths, and prophecies form a tapestry that points to a civilization, or series of civilizations, shaped by beings who defy natural law. And in that tapestry, the Nephilim remain eternal, a bridge between heaven and earth, between myth and reality, between the known and the unfathomable. If civilizations rise and fall, if knowledge is gained and lost, then the Nephilim remind us that history is not merely a human story. They are a mirror of what we might achieve and what we might destroy if power, knowledge, and morality are left unchecked. Perhaps one day their echoes will resurface fully, and humanity will be forced to confront the giants again, not in myth, but in reality. Until then, their story endures in stone, scripture, and shadow, waiting for those who dare to seek the truth. The Nephilim are gone from sight, but they are never gone from possibility.